Jesus Christ tells us the parable of the sower in Matthew chapter 13, verse 1 to 9. And he explains the parable in verse 18 to 23 of the same chapter. In the parable, Jesus Christ talks about the seeds that fell along the way, the seeds that fell on rocks. He also talks about the seeds that fell in thorns and the seeds that fell on good soil. From the parable, we see that the first three categories of seeds were unfruitful. In today's edition of 5 Minutes Talk, we want to look at one reason why the first three categories of seeds were unfruitful. Hi, I'm Charles G. Pewy, your 5 Minutes friend. Welcome you to the 18th edition of the program 5 Minutes Talk. 5 Minutes Talk is brought to you by Light to Youth, helping youth in their walk with God. As I was saying, today we want to look at one reason the first three categories of seeds were unfruitful. That reason is their refusal to put on the helmet of salvation. As part of our series on the believer's armor, we want to look at the helmet of salvation, which is also the reason the first three categories of seeds were unfruitful. Paul advises us to put on the helmet of salvation as part of the armor of God. So what exactly is the helmet of salvation? Well, salvation as it is used here is not talking about someone accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. As we see in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 8, Paul tells us to put on the hope of salvation as helmet. So this is pointing us to something else other than someone accepting Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. So he's talking about the glorification that awaits us upon the second coming of Jesus Christ. As he says in Romans chapter 8 verse 18, that our present suffering is in no way compared to our future glorification. So putting on the helmet of salvation is about thinking about our future glorification, doing things towards our future glorification. That doing things toward our future glorification means we should do things that will make us to think about things pleasing to the Spirit instead of thinking about sinful things. As Paul says in Romans chapter 8 verse 5, he who does sinful things will think about sinful things, but he who does things according to the Spirit will think on things that are pleasing to the Spirit. So if we are to think on things pleasing to the Spirit, we have to start doing things that are pleasing to the Spirit or that are pleasing to God. We have to walk in the Spirit, and that will require us teaching our behavior. And teaching our behavior, Paul tells us exactly how to do it. He tells us we should not be like the people of this world, but we should be different. First, by changing our mind. So putting on the helmet, as we put on the helmet to protect our head, to protect our brain. Putting on the helmet of salvation is to protect our soul, to protect our mind, to control what enters our ears, what enters our eyes. So we have to control what we see and what we hear. We should not just expose our eyes and our ears to anything. So we should not be like the people of this world, but we should be different. First, by changing the things that we know, the things that we allow to enter our mind. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. So we are what we eat. You don't eat bad food or unhealthy food and expect to be healthy. So the same applies to our Christian life. We don't expose ourselves to unhealthy diets and expect to live a healthy Christian life. No, we have to be very, 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 very watchful. about the things we see, about the things we hear. Yes, please don't forget, garbage in, garbage out. We are what we eat, and same apply to our spiritual life. Thank you very much for being with me on the 18th edition of the program 5 Minutes Talk. I've been your 5 Minutes friend, Charles GP, telling you thank you for being with me. Please don't forget to follow me next Saturday for another interesting edition of the program 5 Minutes Talk. I will continue our series on the Believer's Sermon. Thank you.